Good morning, everybody, and welcome to our final CCS Acquisitions Technical Group meeting of the 2021 fiscal year. Yeah, I'm already in 21-22 at my library, so it seems a little weird to say that, but here we are. We're still in the old one. Are there any additions to our agenda? Anyone have any topics they want to bring up?
I do.
Okay.
I just, one of the things I wanted to ask today was, with the cancellation notices being turned off, how are other libraries notifying their patrons of cancellations? So if we want to add that in for discussion.
Sure.
Thanks.
Whoa, if I can find a pen that works. So we're adding that under business, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
And it's cancellation notices for patrons with holds?
Correct.
Okay. Okay, we have any other additions? Sorry, before I just charge right on. We have our minutes from the last meeting. I sent out a link to the draft minutes that Brenda did for the March 10th, 2021 meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
Moved.
And a second? Can I second my own?
Sure.
Okay, there you go. I second. Oh, look, there's seconds in the chat. I have to pay attention to the chat too. And so then I've already forgotten how we do this. This is just a consensus, right, Rachel?
Yes, you can just ask if
Does anyone not approve the minutes? Speak now or forever hold your peace. Okay, hearing no objections, I'm going to say that the minutes have been approved. And now we move on to the fun part of our meeting this morning, the election of the 2021-22 officers. Did we ever receive anybody who is willing to be chair-elect for next year? The easiest job on the planet to be chair-elect, especially in a virtual meeting year.
Indeed.
The sound of the silence is deafening. Are we able to proceed without one until the first meeting of next year?
we can. We can bring it up next year.
Anybody want to jump in? Honestly, easiest job.
All right, I'll try it.
Sandy.
Hey.
Yay. Okay, so our slate is Sandy Holmuth from what library?
Huntley.
Sorry, from
Huntley.
Huntley. Thank you. I know faces, I don't always know where you're from. I just know that I know you from somewhere. So Sandy Holmuth from Huntley for vice chair, chair-elect. And then Kelly Brungraber from Indian Trails for secretary.
Hello.
Hello.
I'm in the dark. I have a window behind me, so
You're not in the witness protection program?
I am in the witness protection program, yes.
Okay, so those are our slate of officers. I don't believe either of these is contested, which is wonderful. So again, if there are any disagreements with our slate of officers, please speak now. Otherwise, I have a motion from Karen Nelson from Fox River Valley to approve this slate. Do I have a second? Brenda seconds. Woohoo. Okay. So again, Anybody not in favor, speak up. Otherwise, I believe we have a new slate of officers for next year.
I don't know if we need to mention, and it's not on the agenda, that I'll be the chair next year.
I think it's automatic, isn't it?
I'm not sure.
I don't know either.
Okay,
Rachel, I didn't put it on there.
It's not necessary to vote on it since it will automatically happen.
automatically happen. Okay,
We approve you, Victoria.
cool. I just didn't want to like, people be like, well, who's the chair? So like, there's something
Good reminder.
perfect. Thank you.
Sorry that I left it off.
Oh, no. Just a clarification.
I mean, you could, maybe then they'd.
Okay, so hurrah. Y'all start your duties with our next meeting, which is TBD. We'll be discussing that under business. So shall we move on to CCS staff reports?
Sure. One moment. Okay, good morning, everyone. Thank you.
I might end up having to.
I hear that some people are unmuted. Can you check to see that you've muted yourselves? So first on the agenda, I will be reviewing the fiscal year rollover presentation. Since it only happens once a year, I think it's a great idea to regularly review what happens. So since the fiscal year rollover happens once a year, the rollover process transitions the acquisitions module from your current fiscal year to the new fiscal year. It automatically generates a new fiscal year structure that's identical to that of your current fiscal year and sets your current fiscal year to a status that will prevent new orders from being placed on it. So for those that roll over the encumbrances, it will say closed, but for those that replicate the fiscal year without rolling over the encumbrances, it says encumbrances closed. There are 3 options to choose from. When you run the fiscal year rollover utility, you can choose to roll over the free balance or to not do so and zero out the free balance. Or you can choose to replicate the fiscal year hierarchy without rolling over any encumbrances. Running the fiscal year rollover utility creates a new fiscal year with a fund structure that's identical to that of your current fiscal year. If the encumbrances are rolled over, the process unlinks certain records from the old funds and relinks them to the corresponding funds in the new fiscal year, such as the pending purchase orders, polys on pending purchase orders, open invoices, and purchase order templates. So when you do choose to roll over the encumbrances, the encumbered amounts are disencumbered in the old fiscal year and rolled over to the new one. This closes all funds from the current fiscal year so that they will not be available for future orders. When running the fiscal year rollover utility, you have 2 choices. You can either choose to roll over the free balance, which carries any unexpended unexpected amount from the current fiscal year to the corresponding fund of the new fiscal year, or you can zero out the free balance. And this creates all funds in the new fiscal year with a $0 free balance and leaves any unexpended funds in the current fiscal year. So most libraries actually choose to zero out the free balance, but several libraries do choose to replicate the fiscal year hierarchy. This creates a new fiscal year with a fund structure identical to that of the current fiscal year. All new funds begin with a 0 free balance. Encumbrances are not rolled over to the new fiscal year, so they stay linked to the year that they were ordered in. So when you do so, this updates the status of the current fiscal year from open to encumbrances closed, and only allows you to receive and invoice the purchase order line items that were encumbered in the prior fiscal year. So this forces any new orders generated after the rollover to be created using funds from the new fiscal year. And once all outstanding orders have been received and invoiced, you can let me know and I will close the fiscal year. So this will change the status from encumbrances closed to all activity closed. So there are a number of tasks that can help you prepare for the rollover. You can run the outstanding orders report, which is found under reports and notices in the client. This helps to identify which purchase orders will be rolled over or will remain attached to the previous fiscal year. It is important to release or delete pending purchase orders. You should also pay open invoices so that money is expended from the correct fiscal year, and apply any known credits or paid invoices. You can also ask for me to run a pre-processing report, which shows the current state of the fund balances to be rolled over. And if you're interested, I can also set up a test rollover so you can just see what it looks like. But the data won't be current in the test server because it has not been updated since January. So this slide lists a number of SQL queries that are helpful to run. So under the purchase order line item find tool, you will find received polys, not invoiced. Under the purchase orders find tool, you will see POs not canceled or closed and POs not invoiced. And under the invoices find tool, you will find invoices not paid or closed. So prior to the rollover, CCS staff will send out an email letting everyone know that they should not be using the acquisitions module at that time. CCS staff will complete the rollover early in the morning before 7 a.m. when no other staff are using the database. We also have an option to complete it at night after everyone has ended their workday. CCS staff will then let everyone know when the rollover has been completed, and you can resume acquisition functions. So after the rollover has happened, we will rename the fiscal year for you, but library staff will have to add or delete any new funds as needed and allocate dollar amounts to the funds. So next on my list is an update on the 945 field. Record sets for setting holdings and Marchive are being created now without using the 945 OCLC do not set field. So there are no processes actually using the 945 field anymore. Because of that, CAM has passed a motion to eliminate the requirement. I've already updated the catalog wiki, but because the page that mentions it is on the bibliographic input standards page, you will have to bring that to governing board for a final approval. This will be done after Scrap has taken some time to review all of the bibliographic input standards and create a list for governing board to approve on. But for now, you can just assume that the 945 is not required anymore in any records. So next on my agenda is an update on Vega. Deborah could not come today to provide the update herself. So I will be providing the update that she gave to me. CCS is currently working with Innovative to set up a test Vega instance that will sync with our training database. Once CCS upgrades production to Polaris 6.7, we will be able to work with Innovative to set up the beta Vega instance that will sync with production. CCS will begin working with 7 beta libraries later in the summer.
If you're thinking about it, just call me back, and I'll see where I'm at. The only thing I was gonna do.
I do hear something in the background. Can you check that you're muted? Thank you. Later in the summer, they will be able to test Vega with patrons. All CCS libraries do have an opportunity to test and share their feedback with CCS during the partner program. Future Vega updates will be in CCS News. And if you would like to watch Deborah's update from the CAM meeting, a link to the moment that she begins to speak is on the slide. Does anyone have any questions on these topics before I move on to a preview of next year? Covered a lot of information. Karine asks if Vega replaces the current Power Pack. Yes, if it is chosen, it will be replacing Power Pack. Are there any other questions? Okay, I will move on to a preview of next year. One second. So we have a number of exciting plans for the next fiscal year. The governing board has approved a goal to assist the members with diversity audits. To do so, I have applied for a Rails continuing education grant for our lecture series on collection development strategies that support diversity initiatives. This will be a webinar series of 4 webinars. The topics will include disabilities, diversity audits, LGBTQ+ collections, and other data analysis methods. Some of these webinars will also include topics of interest to catalogers. The webinars will be scheduled for the fall. We have also created a new discussion list that you may have noticed already from the newsletter for anyone interested in discussing diversity audits and the results of your diversity audits. So please contact the help desk if you would like to be added to the email list. Also, Bob, Virginia, and I will be working on a really fun project to create a diversity audit dashboard based on the subject headings in the bibliographic records. So this will be like a free alternative to the services that vendors could provide you. It won't be perfect, but it will include a section that could be really helpful to selectors in which they could look at someone else's catalog and someone else's dashboard in order to get suggestions of titles from a more diverse collection to purchase. So information on the Polaris 7.0 update is still forthcoming. However, we still have not been able to update the production server to Polaris 6.7 while waiting on a patch to fix a bug. However, the issue has just been fixed, so the update should happen soon. Karine is asking, when does CCS hope to hear if they received the grant? So the grant was due in the end of May. I did submit it early, so I but I am hoping to hear by the end of June that we get the grant. However, if we do not get the grant, we are still planning to hold the webinar series and pay for it ourselves. But some of the webinars that will be held will be considered on like library time by those who will be taking part. So they are not requiring an actual speaker fee. Are there any other questions? Okay, so next on my list is a demonstration of a bibliographic bulk change that I think you will find very useful. So I've received an interesting help desk ticket recently that I thought would be great to share with you. The scenario is a library needs to order items from Amazon, so they will not be receiving any MARC records with a 970 field from the vendor. When they create item records automatically using the collection and material type combination, there are too many item templates to match to the correct template without the 970 subfield H. So what can be done to create item records with the correct item template? So my suggestion for the situation is to add the 970 subfield with the subfield H to the bibliographic records using a bibliographic bulk change. This is fairly easy to do. So first, you would add all of your bibliographic records that fit within the same category and would have the same 970 field to a record set. You can then bulk add the 970 field to the records with all the fields that are necessary, including the subfield H. And then after that, bulk add the purchase order line items from your record set to the PO. I'm going to do a brief demonstration in Polaris. So here I have my record set with just 2 bibliographic records in it. And this stack of 2 columns is for clicking on to access the bulk change screen. So I'm borrowing some fields from Endurance Trails. On this Data Fields tab are all of the operations for inserting new tags and subfield. So when you're inserting a new tag completely and you haven't done added one before, you would click Insert New Tag. It is the first one in the list. You can change the tag number to 970. And in the section for subfield, you can add all of your subfields. So I'm going to add a subfield F for a fund, and then press Add. And you can add each of them in the order that you would like them to appear. So subfield H for the code from the name of the item template. Subfield L for the location WGK. And I'll just also add quantity of 1 for the price. For the quantity, but not add the price since I don't know the price, and that can be added later. And then next, you have to add everything to the queue by clicking on Add Change to the Queue, which will move everything down to the bulk change queue for data field section. You can add as many as you like of different fields if you wanted to, but I would assume you'd only want to add one 970 field at a time, and then press OK. Then you'll see a summary of changes. So if you see something wrong, you can cancel and go back or press continue to add it. So I've added the bulk change to a queue. So this is a bit different than doing item bulk changes. Item bulk changes happen immediately, but bibliographic bulk change has to happen when the bibliographic record is available. So if someone else has the record open, the bulk change cannot occur until the record is closed. So that's why it adds it to the queue. And then to find the queue, you can go under Utilities, Cataloging Process, and Bibliographic Bulk Change Queue. So this may take a while, but mine is the only one pending. You can just press refresh and it has been completed. So it creates a PDF report, just taking a while to open. And you can see that it has added it to the records. If there was a duplicate field already added, it would say it found a duplicate and didn't add it. So it will provide you with information on what happened. And then you can take a look at the records and see that it has added the 970 field. So from this same record set, you can then add all records to a new purchase order and set up the default. So I won't go through each of these settings because I'm sure you're familiar with it if you use the acquisitions module already. And then press OK to add the polys to a purchase order. Are there any questions? So I will be emailing out a document with these instructions after the meeting today. Okay, since there are no questions, oh, let's see. There is a question now from Corinne. So this is instead of hand keying all the polys, right? And releasing the order and then creating item records. Yes, this is instead of hand keying them. It uses the automatic processes to create bulk purchase order line items from the record set. But you would still have to go through the process of once the polys are added, you'd still have to release the purchase order. And then you'd have all of the information from the 970 field held in the tables, and you'd be able to take advantage of that and create the item records automatically because the subfield H has been added to the tables behind the acquisitions module. Yeah, Karin asks if you need to go to each poly and add the real price. So yes, you could go to each poly and add the real price. If you wanted to, you could go through the records and add it manually to the 970 field instead, or if you wanted to add it to the item records later on, you'd be able to, or I mean to the polys later on, you'd be able to do that as well. Are there any other questions? Okay, I think we can move on to the business section. So the first thing that we have to discuss for business is next year's meeting dates. So we have had to move next year's meeting dates to the third Wednesdays of the month. So right now they're scheduled for for September, December, March, and June, so that they do not overlap with executive committee or governing board, which was on the second Wednesday. So one option is to not hold meetings quarterly anymore, but to switch to 2 meetings a year, because we have not had enough topics for every month to discuss. So is anyone interested in moving it to 2 meetings a year, or do you want to continue to hold the meetings quarterly and then cancel if there are no topics to discuss?
I think 2 meetings a year really makes sense at this point. You know, this was a very, very critical group to have to meet frequently when we were transitioning to Polaris, as we were all learning the new acquisitions module. I think now it seems to have settled into a fairly smooth operation and questions come up, but I think that's not enough to meet quarterly.
Okay, great. So the next question is, which months should we have meetings? Brenda suggests September and March. Is everyone okay with that?
I think that would also be good.
Great. So if there are no objections, our next meeting will be the third Wednesday of September. And then after that, it will be March. Great. So we can move on to our next item on the agenda that was added.
So Victoria, do you want to take it away?
Sure. Just the question was, when libraries have cancellations on the vendor's end and people have holds, how do they notify patrons who have holds at the individual libraries?
I believe our circulation staff is calling. We do that with other holds that we have to cancel. There don't seem to be an overwhelming number, so they're able to reach out to those patrons. And it looks like Brenda's saying the same thing happens at ELA. So Lai, it says you notify circulation. Does that mean circulation then notifies the patrons? Yeah.
Does anybody have their public service staff, like the adult services, youth services, notify their patrons? Or is it mostly circulation staff? Okay. Oh, public service staff, okay.
Brad said that at Cary, the public service staff does the notifications.
Okay. If anybody has any more input or thoughts, you could just email me directly, but this is good information to have. Thank you.
Okay. Does anyone have any announcements to make?
Hi, I want to make an announcement. I haven't been with this group very long, but I won't be with this group at all soon. I am retiring from Park Ridge Public Library.
Oh,
In
Gretchen,
July.
congratulations.
Thank you. I'm very excited.
Woohoo.
Woohoo. Thank you.
Well, thank you for thanking me for being the chair. It was fun.
Absolutely.
Again, pretty stress-free since we're virtual. So, you know, I don't have to stand up and talk in front of a bunch of people. I just have to sit in front of my computer. So, if I don't have any other announcements or anybody wants to chime in with anything, then I believe we could ask for a motion to adjourn.
I move to adjourn.
There is a question here. Will we be virtual in 2022? I know that we're virtual through 2021. I
We-
don't know that CCS has decided on 2022 yet.
We are going to discuss that again in the fall.
Makes sense. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. So unless anybody really wants to hang out, I believe we're adjourned. Thanks for coming out this morning. Hopefully I'll see you all again in person at some point, except for you, Gretchen, because you're gonna have a wonderful retirement.
Thank you. Hey, Rachel.
Yes.
Should I just email you to schedule the rollover? Should I do a ticket?
A ticket is fine.
Okay, will do. Okay, we're gonna do July 1, so.
Okay.
I'll put one in.
Okay, great.
All right, thank you.